Pathologic 2 is the sequel not sequel to Ice Pick Lodge's probably most recognizable game. And if that description was confusing, well, it's going to get even more than that. For those of you who aren't familiar, Ice Pick Lodge is the makers of some of the most unique and just explicitly designed titles out there. These are games that you either love or hate. And they are very much about setting and lore first, game design and playability third or fourth down the line. And that's very important to understand about Pathologic 2. This was the kick-started way of bringing back the first game but making it more modernized, including a brand new engine and trying to make things quote-unquote more accessible. And while they've exceeded to some extent, it's important to remember that no matter how much they try to make these games accessible, it's not going to come anywhere near what we see from other developers, for good and for ill. But the story, in this crazy circumstance, is that we're returning to our village, somewhere in Europe, with its own customs and rules, and women walking around, or tree sprites walking around naked, asking you to sleep with them. That is a plot that happens in this game, and no, we're not going to show that footage here. But you are a surgeon returning home after a mysterious letter from your father, and you discover that he has been murdered, and through some very strange scenarios and people that I couldn't even try and spoil this game if I wanted to, you learn that the town has 12 days before it succumbs to a plague. And you are the only person left to save them all, whether they want you to or not. And there's so much to really unpack from a story and narrative point of view about Pathologic 2. But its core gameplay feels similar in some sense to almost Majora's Mask with more of a survival aspect to it. And I know those are two very different designs. But the game itself takes place in quote-unquote real time. There is a day and night cycle, with each day unlocking different events, and previous events closing up or being removed permanently. If you don't move too fast, or you move too slowly, events will go on without you, and you will either have to live with those consequences, or try and change things after the fact. But the game itself involves you exploring this town, with your main limitation being your resources. You need to manage hunger, thirst, exhaustion, as well as your overall health. As your stats begin to degrade, you'll lose max stamina, and stamina is used for running around as well as the game's basic fighting system. Run out of health, and weird stuff will happen. Don't run out of health, and still weird stuff is going to happen, just a different kind of weird stuff. The game tracks all the events as well as the people you've met, and it leaves it up to you to try and figure out what exactly is going on. And that is definitely a mainstay of Ice Pick Lodge's design. That the game is never going to come right out and spell out for you what the gameplay loop is. It's up to you to kind of piece it all together. Adding to that is just the village itself. There are strange creatures wandering around, customs, a weird theater with people performing acts at midnight, and other crazy things going on. And you as the player and you as the protagonist are kind of a fish out of water. It almost feels like you're watching like the fifth movie in a franchise, and you've never seen any of things before, and you're trying to make sense without that knowledge. And it gives Pathologic 2 a very interesting hook from a story perspective. And the fact that you are given not exactly full control, but it leaves up to you to try and figure out what's going on and affect things. And I'm sure there must be multiple endings in this game. Again, this is one of those titles that you've either played the original one all the way through, or you probably never heard of it. And I never did play the first one. In terms of accessibility or playability, again, without having the knowledge of the first game, I can't tell you where things have improved other than from a graphical standpoint. The UI is serviceable. It is your standard inventory Tetris, equip stuff, and you get the picture. I do like the journal screen kind of being your own network of events. But other than that, this is one of those games where it's going to be a very short video because this is definitely more on the story side of things. So, after a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters and backers, we'll talk a little bit more about where this game just kind of fits in the grand scheme of weirdness. And now for a quick thank you to our Patreon supporters and current Game Wisdom sponsors. If you would like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, link down below. Pathologic 2 is one of those games that it's very hard to define not only the market or audience for it, or whether or not you're going to enjoy it. Like we've said, this is probably the most accessible game from Ice Pick Lodge, but that's not really saying all that much. The game for day one literally starts you out with everybody hating you, and you having to try and figure out how to survive, and of course not get beaten up by a crowd, as you saw right there. But the game leaves so much for you to discover that it may be to its detriment. I played for about 2-3 hours, making it to the second day, and I still don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing in this game or what the overall goal is. And again, that's kind of the point for these kinds of games. But it does mean that not a lot of people, I think, are going to play this game. It is such a very weird and different kind of design that it's going to be hard if you're not already a fan of Ice Pick to really pick this one up. And it's very similar to a lot of roguelikes where you're going to be failing and screwing up a whole lot on your first playthrough, not because of anything that you did wrong, because you just didn't know what the heck was going on. And with that, again, this makes this a very hard sell because of it. The basic gameplay works, but nothing feels unique or engaging from a core gameplay loop standpoint. And again, that goes back to Pathologic's focus on story and narrative as opposed to gameplay loops. If you're expecting to play like a full-on survival game like The Lone Dark, or something with a lot more meat to its gameplay, Pathologic 2 is not going to work for you. It is one of those perfect examples of a game that's greater than the sum of its parts, but how far that goes really depends on your own level of commitment. I'm sure there are going to be people who play this game and probably quit after the first hour. And then there are people who are going to sit through for the entire 12 days and probably get something out of it. Whether that is enjoyment, frustration, or any combination of the two is, I think, up to a person-by-person basis. But again, with this kind of design, it's very hard for me to say outright, they should have done this, or this should not be like that. Because this game was explicitly designed to be exactly this. And like I said at the start, that is for good and for ill. So, if you're in the mood for something that is very weird and definitely very disturbing, and something that I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions about, definitely check out Pathologic 2. And I'm not sure what else is going to be coming next from Ice Pick, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be another very weird game. But I'd like to thank them for giving me a press key to check this one out. And let me know what you think about this in the comments below, because I think this again going to be a game that a few of you are going to type how much you hate this game. I'm sure I'm going to get several people who are going to say they love it as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to come back for our daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, this has been Pathologic 2. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.